Maya Johnson sat cross-legged on her bedroom floor, surrounded by a chaotic sea of notebooks, textbooks, and highlighters. It was a Saturday morning, and she had spent the last few hours studying for her upcoming exams. The smell of fresh coffee wafted in from the kitchen, a reminder of her mother's unwavering support and encouragement. Today was supposed to be a day of celebration. She had been waiting anxiously for the acceptance letter from Eastwood University, a prestigious institution that had long been her dream school. As the clock ticked closer to noon, Maya felt a flutter of nerves in her stomach. She had been checking her email constantly, refreshing the page every few minutes, her heart racing with anticipation. Finally, a notification popped up. With a deep breath, she clicked on the message, her fingers trembling slightly. The words "Dear Maya Johnson" greeted her, and for a moment, her heart soared. But as she read further, her excitement quickly turned to confusion and then to devastation. "We regret to inform you that we cannot offer you admission to Eastwood University for the upcoming academic year. After a thorough review of your application, we found discrepancies regarding your qualifications that do not align with our admission standards." The letter continued with vague references to her extracurricular activities and academic achievements, questioning their validity without providing any concrete evidence. Maya's chest tightened as she read the cold, impersonal words. The rejection felt like a heavy weight crashing down on her dreams. "Maya," her mother's voice broke through the haze of disappointment. "Are you okay?" Maya blinked back tears, her heart aching. I didn't get in, Mom. Eastwood rejected me." "Oh, sweetheart," her mother said, entering the room and kneeling beside her. "I'm so sorry. They don't know what they're missing. You're brilliant." "It doesn't feel that way right now," Maya murmured, her voice barely above a whisper. Her mother wrapped her arms around her, offering comfort in the midst of Maya's shattered dreams. "You know, sometimes things don't go as planned for a reason. Maybe there's something better waiting for you." Still feeling hollow, Maya nodded but didn't believe it. In the back of her mind, a storm of emotions swirled. Anger, sadness, and confusion. How could they question her qualifications? She had worked tirelessly, balancing her studies with part-time jobs and volunteering. The thought that her race could play a part in this rejection crossed her mind, but she pushed it aside, unwilling to let that thought take root. Later that day, she met her best friend Aisha at their favorite cafe, trying to find solace in the familiarity of their friendship. Aisha looked at her with concern as Maya recounted the day's events, her voice trembling with frustration. "That's so unfair, Maya. You should be at Eastwood right now," Aisha exclaimed, her eyes wide with disbelief. "You are so qualified. Maybe I should have applied to Riverton instead," Maya sighed, stirring her coffee absent-mindedly. "But it's not Eastwood, it's not my dream. Riverton is a great school, and they value diversity and inclusion," Aisha said, her tone earnest. "You could thrive there. Why not take a chance?" Maya hesitated, the weight of her rejection still heavy on her heart. "What if I'm just settling for second best? I don't want to feel like I didn't try hard enough." Aisha reached across the table, placing her hand over Maya's. "You're not settling. You're choosing a place that will appreciate your talents. Plus, it could be the fresh start you need." After a moment of contemplation, Maya finally nodded. "Okay, I'll apply. What do I have to lose?" As the weeks passed, Maya's application to Riverton University took shape. She poured her heart into the essays, crafting each word with care, determined to present her true self in a way Eastwood had failed to see. The day she submitted her application felt like a small victory in the face of adversity. When she received her acceptance letter from Riverton, the joy that filled her was unexpected. It was a new beginning, a chance to prove her worth and embrace her passion for neuroscience without the shadow of rejection looming over her. As she stepped onto the campus for the first time, the vibrant atmosphere enveloped her, and she felt an instant connection with the place. "Welcome to Riverton," a cheerful voice called out, breaking her reverie. Maya turned to see a tall, kind-looking woman approaching her. "I'm Professor Smith," she introduced herself with a warm smile. "I'm thrilled to have you here. We've been waiting for bright minds like yours." Maya's heart swelled with hope. Perhaps this was where she truly belonged, a place that valued her for who she was, not what others perceived her to be. As she walked through the campus, she felt the weight of Eastwood's rejection begin to lift, replaced by a budding sense of possibility. Maya sat in the small, sunlit study room of Riverton University, her textbooks sprawled across the table. The scent of freshly brewed coffee filled the air as she glanced at her fellow students, who were engaged in animated discussions about their upcoming exams. It was here, in this nurturing environment, that she began to realize she wasn't alone in her struggles. "Did you hear about the new support group they're starting?" Aisha's voice broke through Maya's thoughts. She looked up to see her best friend leaning against the doorframe, her arms crossed with a knowing smile. "It's for anyone who's faced bias in academia. I think you should join." Maya raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "What kind of bias?" Aisha shrugged, her expression shifting to seriousness. "You know, like being overlooked or doubted because of our backgrounds. I heard some of the seniors talking about how they felt when they applied to schools like Eastwood. They want to create a space where we can share our experiences and support each other." Maya felt a spark of interest ignite within her. "That sounds like exactly what we need. I didn't realize there were others like me here." "Exactly," Aisha said, her enthusiasm palpable. "You should come to the first meeting. It's this Friday." As the week progressed, Maya found herself eagerly anticipating the support group meeting. On Friday evening, she arrived at a cozy classroom filled with a diverse group of students, each with their own story of resilience. Maya introduced herself, her voice steady despite the flutter of nerves in her stomach. Maya. I was rejected from Eastwood University, and it's been a journey since then," she shared, her heart racing as she spoke. There was a silence in the room, and she could see understanding in the eyes of her peers. One student, a tall young man named Jamal, nodded. "I know that pain. I got into Riverton after being told my grades weren't good enough for Eastwood, even when I had the same scores as others who were accepted." Another student, a soft-spoken woman named Priya, chimed in. "I had the same experience. It felt like my application was judged based on my name before they even saw my grades." Maya listened intently as stories flowed around the room, each narrative echoing her own feelings of rejection and determination. The support group became a cherished space for them, a place to uplift one another, share resources, and celebrate their victories, no matter how small. Weeks later, after countless late nights and early mornings, Maya's hard work bore fruit. She received an email that caused her heart to race. She had been awarded a scholarship for an internship at a prestigious research lab. Giddy with excitement, she rushed to tell Aisha. "Maya, that's amazing," Aisha exclaimed, throwing her arms around her best friend. "You deserve this more than anyone." On her first day at the lab, Maya walked through the sterile halls, her heart pounding with anticipation. She was determined to make the most of this opportunity. As she settled into her workspace, she noticed a familiar face, a man in his 50s, with thinning hair and sharp features. It took a moment for her to place him. He was Mr. Collins, the admissions officer from Eastwood University. Maya's breath caught in her throat. Memories of her rejection flooded back, a bitter reminder of the pain she had endured. Yet Mr. Collins didn't recognize her. He approached her workstation, a clipboard in hand. "Welcome to the lab, Maya," he said, his tone warm and encouraging. "I've heard great things about your work. I'm looking forward to seeing what you can accomplish here." "Thank you," she replied, forcing a smile as a flood of emotions battled within her. She wanted to confront him, to express how his decisions had impacted her life, but the moment felt too fragile. Instead, she chose to focus on her research, to show him how far she had come. As the days turned into weeks, Maya poured her heart into her projects. Each experiment she conducted, each late-night study session she endured, was a testament to her resilience. The shadow of Eastwood University lingered in her mind, but she was determined to rise above it. One afternoon, while discussing her findings with her lab supervisor, Maya overheard Mr. Collins praising her work to another colleague. "This young woman is exceptional. I truly believe she has a bright future ahead," he said, completely unaware of the weight his words carried for her. Maya felt a mix of pride and confusion. Here was the man who had once dismissed her potential, now lauding her abilities. Should she tell him who she was? Or was it better to let her success speak for itself? For now, she chose silence. She had come too far to be defined by her past rejection. Instead, Maya focused on the future, determined to carve out a space where her voice, and those of her peers, could be heard and valued. Maya Johnson stood backstage at the academic conference, her heart racing as she adjusted her notes for the umpteenth time. The auditorium was buzzing with excitement, filled with scholars, students, and professionals eager to hear from emerging minds in the field of neuroscience. She could feel the weight of her journey pressing down on her. This was not just an opportunity to present her research. It was her moment to prove her worth and silence the echoes of rejection from Eastwood University. "Are you ready?" Aisha's voice broke through Maya's thoughts, pulling her back to the present. Her best friend stood beside her, wearing a supportive smile that radiated warmth. "I think so," Maya replied, her voice slightly shaky. "What if they don't like my research? What if they will love it?" Aisha interjected, her confidence unwavering. "You've worked too hard not to shine. Remember, you belong here, and this is your time to show them just how brilliant you are." Maya took a deep breath, grateful for Aisha's unwavering support. "You're right. I'm going out there." She squared her shoulders and stepped into the spotlight, the audience's murmurs fading as she approached the podium. "Good afternoon, everyone," Maya began, her voice steadying as she scanned the crowd. "My name is Maya Johnson, and I am honored to present my research on neuroplasticity and its implications for cognitive rehabilitation." As she spoke, her passion ignited the room, her words flowing effortlessly. She illustrated her findings with clarity and conviction, the audience hanging on every word. As Maya concluded her presentation, she was met with thunderous applause. She couldn't help but smile, feeling a surge of pride and relief wash over her. But the moment was interrupted when she noticed a familiar figure in the crowd, a dean from Eastwood University, his brow furrowed in concentration as he took notes. Maya's heart sank momentarily. She had not anticipated seeing anyone from her past in this moment of triumph. After the presentation, Maya was surrounded by enthusiastic attendees eager to discuss her work, but her mind kept drifting back to the dean. As she navigated through the crowd, a voice called out to her. "Dr. Johnson." It was the dean, making his way toward her with a purposeful stride. "Congratulations on your presentation. It was remarkable. I've heard so much about your research." "Thank you," Maya replied, trying to keep her composure. "I'm glad you found it interesting." "Interesting? It's groundbreaking." The dean's eyes sparkled with genuine admiration. "I had no idea you were this talented. We would love to have someone like you at Eastwood. Perhaps you could consider applying again." Maya felt a rush of emotions: anger, disbelief, and a hint of satisfaction. "I appreciate the offer," she said carefully, "but I'm happy at Riverton. They've given me the opportunity to grow and thrive in ways I didn't think were possible." The dean nodded, a flicker of regret crossing his face. "I understand. It's just we've been trying to address some of our admission practices in light of recent criticism. Your success is a testament to why diversity matters in academia." Maya raised an eyebrow, skepticism creeping in. "Is that so? Because it seems like you only care now that I've made a name for myself." The dean hesitated, clearly taken aback by her directness. "I assure you, Maya, we are committed to change. The backlash has opened our eyes to the biases that exist within our institution." "Change is good," she replied, her voice steady but firm. "But it shouldn't take public outrage to realize that talent knows no color. I hope you genuinely follow through." As the conversation continued, Maya's unease grew, especially when she overheard two Eastwood representatives standing nearby, their voices low but clearly audible. "We need to find a way to salvage our reputation after that rejection. If we downplay the biases, maybe we can move past this scandal." Maya's stomach twisted at their words. Their intentions felt insincere, a desperate attempt to sweep their discriminatory practices under the rug. She exchanged a glance with Aisha, who stood a few feet away, her expression mirroring Maya's concern. "Let's get out of here," Maya whispered to Aisha, her heart heavy with the weight of the conversation. They slipped away from the crowd, the applause still echoing in Maya's ears, but feeling distant now. As they walked outside, Maya felt a mix of pride and anger swirling within her. She had achieved so much, yet the shadows of her past lingered, reminding her that the fight for equality and recognition was far from over. The tension in the air felt palpable, and as she glanced back at the conference hall, she knew that her journey was only just beginning. Maya sat at her cluttered desk, her eyes glued to the glowing screen of her laptop. The email from Eastwood University had arrived just moments ago, its subject line reading, "Invitation to reapply." A combination of emotions swirled within her: confusion, anger, and a flicker of hope. She had worked so hard to carve out her place at Riverton, blossoming into an accomplished student and researcher. The thought of returning to the very institution that had dismissed her felt like a betrayal to everything she had achieved. "Are you going to reply?" Aisha's voice broke through Maya's thoughts. She had entered the room, her expression a mix of concern and curiosity. Maya leaned back in her chair, running a hand through her curls in frustration. "I don't know, Aisha. Part of me wants to confront them about how they rejected me in the first place. They need to know what they did." Aisha crossed her arms, her brow furrowed. "That's understandable, but what if they just want to save face? You've built a life here. Riverton believes in you. Maybe you should focus on that." Maya sighed, her gaze drifting to the framed photograph of her support group on the wall. They had become a family, each member lifting the other up in their shared struggles. "I know, but it feels like a slap in the face. They're acting like they care now, but where were they when I needed them?" "Exactly. And do you really want to go back to a place that didn't see your worth?" Aisha's voice was gentle but firm. "You're thriving here. You have opportunities now. Don't let them pull you back in." Maya nodded slowly, appreciating Aisha's unwavering support. "You're right. Maybe I should focus on sharing my story instead. If I can help others, that's more important than proving a point to Eastwood." That evening, Maya found herself standing in front of an audience during a university event. The panel discussion was focused on overcoming adversity, and as the moderator introduced her, she felt a rush of nerves. But as she took the microphone, she remembered the faces of her peers, their determination to fight for a better future. "Thank you for having me," Maya began, her voice steady. "I'm here to share my journey, a journey that started with rejection but led me to a place where I found my voice." As she spoke, she recounted the day she received her rejection letter from Eastwood University. The audience was captivated, hanging on her every word. "That letter shattered my dreams. It made me question my abilities and my worth. But it also ignited a fire within me. I refused to let their biases define who I am." Maya could see heads nodding in agreement, and it fueled her confidence. "At Riverton, I found a community that supported me, that believed in my potential. I learned that our experiences shape us, and it's our duty to uplift one another." After the panel concluded, she was approached by a journalist named David, who had been in the audience. "Maya, your story is incredibly powerful," he said, his eyes gleaming with admiration. "I'd love to write an article about your journey. It could really shed light on the issues of bias in higher education." Maya felt a mix of excitement and trepidation. "Thank you, David. I'd be honored, but I want to make sure it reflects the experiences of others as well." "Absolutely. We can feature the stories of your peers, too," he replied, his enthusiasm infectious. "This is a chance to inspire change." Maya agreed, feeling a sense of purpose blossom within her. "Let's do it. If sharing my story can help others, I'm all in." As they exchanged contact information, Maya couldn't shake the feeling that this was the beginning of something greater. The injustices she faced were not hers alone. They were part of a larger narrative that needed to be told. The weight of her experiences, once a burden, was now a source of strength. Later that night, Maya reflected on her journey so far. She thought of the rejection letter, of Mr. Collins and the biases that had once held her back. Yet she also thought of the community that had embraced her, the mentors who believed in her, and the path she was forging at Riverton. In sharing her story, she wasn't just confronting the past, she was claiming her future. And as she drifted off to sleep, Maya felt a renewed sense of purpose, ready to step into the light and make her voice heard. Maya sat at her desk, the glow of her laptop illuminating her determined face. The article had exploded across social media, and within hours, the world seemed to be buzzing with her story. It had become a rallying cry, drawing attention not just to her personal journey, but to the systemic discrimination that many faced in academia. Her phone buzzed incessantly with notifications, friends and supporters sharing the article, some tagging her in posts filled with praise and solidarity. But it wasn't just her friends. Alumni from Riverton and even some from Eastwood University were starting to voice their outrage. "Can you believe this?" Aisha exclaimed, her voice nearly drowned out by the sound of the television in the background. "People are actually calling for change. This is huge, Maya." Maya leaned back in her chair, a mix of pride and apprehension swirling within her. "It is," she replied, her voice steady but contemplative. "But I can't shake the feeling that it's just the beginning. Eastwood has to do more than just respond to the backlash." As if on cue, her phone rang. The caller ID displayed an unfamiliar number, but something in her gut told her to answer. "Hello," she said cautiously. "Maya, it's Mr. Collins," came a hesitant voice from the other end. "I hope you're well. I wanted to reach out after reading the article. I owe you an apology." Maya's heart raced. The man who had played a role in her rejection was now seeking her out, and she felt a surge of anger mixed with curiosity. "What do you want, Mr. Collins?" "I want to take responsibility for my part in the admissions process at Eastwood. I didn't see the bias at the time, and I should have." "I'm truly sorry," he said, his tone earnest. "I'd like to invite you to speak at Eastwood about your experiences. It's time for us to listen and learn." Maya fell silent, grappling with her emotions. She had longed for the opportunity to confront Eastwood, yet the thought of standing before those who had dismissed her was daunting. "Why would you want me to do that?" she finally asked, her voice tinged with skepticism. "Because things need to change, and we can't do it without acknowledging the mistakes we've made," Mr. Collins replied. "I believe your voice could inspire real dialogue." Maya considered his words. She remembered the pain of rejection, but also the strength she had found through her journey at Riverton. "I'll think about it," she said cautiously before hanging up. Later that evening, Maya confided in Aisha about the call. "He wants me to speak at Eastwood," she said, pacing around her room. "I'm torn. Part of me is furious at them, but another part wants to make a difference." Aisha nodded, her expression serious. "You have a chance to change things, Maya. Think about all the students who might face what you did. Your voice matters more than ever." Maya stopped pacing, her heart pounding. The idea of addressing the very institution that had turned her away ignited a fire within her. She could speak not just for herself, but for countless others who had faced similar discrimination. "You're right. If I don't do this, who will?" Over the next few days, Maya poured her heart into her speech. She crafted a powerful narrative, weaving in statistics about racial bias in admissions, sharing her personal story of resilience, and emphasizing the importance of diversity in academia. Each word felt like an act of defiance. She would no longer be silent about the injustices she faced. On the day of the speech, she stood before her mirror, adjusting her blazer and taking a deep breath. "You got this, Maya," she whispered to herself. "This is your moment." As she stepped onto the stage at Eastwood, the atmosphere was tense. She could see faces in the audience, some curious, others skeptical. Mr. Collins sat in the front row, looking both anxious and hopeful. Maya swallowed hard and began to speak, her voice steady and strong. "Thank you for having me today," she started, the audience quieting down. "I stand before you not just as a student, but as a reminder of the flaws within our educational systems." The words flowed from her like a river, powerful and unyielding. She spoke of her rejection, her struggles, and the strength she found in her community at Riverton. She highlighted the need for accountability, urging the administration to reflect on their practices. As she reached the climax of her speech, she could feel the weight of her message sinking in. We cannot ignore the voices that have been silenced. It is our duty to create an inclusive environment where every student can thrive, regardless of their background. The applause that followed was thunderous, echoing in the auditorium long after she had stepped off stage. Maya felt a mix of relief and exhilaration. She had done it. She had taken her pain and transformed it into a call for change, igniting hope not just for herself, but for future generations. Maya Johnson stood backstage at Eastwood University, her heart pounding against her ribcage like a trapped bird. As she took a deep breath, she could hear the murmur of the audience beyond the curtain. Students, faculty, and perhaps some of the very individuals who had rejected her not long ago. Today was the day she would confront them, not just for herself, but for all those who had faced similar injustices. "Are you ready?" Aisha whispered, her eyes filled with encouragement. She had traveled across town to support Maya, and her presence felt like a warm anchor amidst the swirling doubts. "I have to be," Maya replied, her voice steady but soft. "This isn't just about me anymore. It's about making sure this doesn't happen to anyone else." With one last nod from Aisha, Maya stepped into the spotlight. The bright lights momentarily blinded her, but she quickly adjusted her gaze to the audience, scanning their faces. The room fell silent, anticipation hanging thick in the air. "Good afternoon," Maya began, her voice clear and strong. "My name is Maya Johnson, and I stand before you not only as a student, but as a testament to the power of resilience." As she spoke, she detailed her journey, the rejection from Eastwood, her struggles, and her eventual rise at Riverton University. The audience listened intently, some leaning forward in their seats, captivated by her words. She shared the pain of being doubted, the sting of rejection that felt like a personal attack on her identity. As she revealed the biased practices in the admissions process, a collective gasp rippled through the crowd. "It is disheartening to know that my credentials were questioned not based on merit, but on the color of my skin," she said, her voice rising with passion. "And I am not the only one. Many of my peers have faced the same unjust scrutiny." Just as she finished her speech, she noticed a small group of students standing up in the back of the auditorium. They held brightly colored signs that read, "We stand with Maya." The sight ignited a wave of applause that swept through the room, echoing against the walls. Maya felt her heart swell. The support from her peers was palpable, a tangible shift that the administration could no longer ignore. "Thank you. Thank you," she called out, raising her hand for silence, but the applause only grew louder. The students continued to cheer, and even some faculty members joined in, clapping as they acknowledged the truth in her words. Maya stepped back from the podium, her breath coming in quick bursts. She had done it. She had confronted the institution that had once turned her away, and the reaction was overwhelmingly positive. But amidst the celebration was a lingering uncertainty about what would happen next. As the applause began to fade, Mr. Collins approached the stage. He had been standing off to the side, his expression a mix of admiration and concern. "Maya," he said, stepping into the light, "I have something important to share." The audience quieted down, intrigued. "In addition to what you've just presented, I have been collecting evidence of discriminatory practices within our admissions process," he revealed, his voice steady. "I couldn't remain silent after witnessing what you went through. It's time to hold ourselves accountable." Maya's eyes widened in surprise. "You mean you've been working on this?" "Yes," he confirmed. "With your courage, I believe we can push for real change. The administration needs to understand that these practices will no longer be tolerated." A wave of hope washed over Maya. "What can we do?" With a determined look, Mr. Collins replied, "Together, we can present this evidence to the board. We have the power to demand changes in policy and admissions practices, ensuring that every student is judged solely on their merit." The audience erupted in applause once more, but this time it felt different. A rallying cry for justice and equality. Maya felt her heart swell with pride. This was no longer just her fight. It was a collective movement towards change at Eastwood University. As the crowd continued to cheer, Mr. Collins extended his hand towards Maya. "Would you consider joining me as a visiting scholar? Your voice and experience are invaluable in shaping the future of this institution." Maya looked at the audience, the support of her peers still ringing in her ears. "I would be honored," she said, taking his hand. Let's make sure that no one else has to go through what I did." With that, the applause crescendoed, echoing through the auditorium as Maya and Mr. Collins stood united, ready to confront the past and forge a brighter future for generations to come.